You know, in that 3-5's queen, it's happened to me where it goes up, go, and I've got 2 5s left. Now I got to lead one.
Well, if you actually drop the 5, now most of the time, if you lead a 5.
No, I'm talking about leading the queen.
Oh yeah, well if you lead the queen, you're in big trouble. I can put a 3 on it, a 4 on it, a 6, a 7. You can give me all kinds of cards that'll put pressure on you, not me. The idea is to put pressure on the dealer.
Yeah, I'm saying by leading the queen, you're going to end up leading the 5 later.
Yeah.
So whatever. If I put a 6 on it, you're going to play the 5 after you lead the queen. See, that's the problem. So you'll give up fewer pegs by leading the 5 on these hands I mentioned than you will otherwise. And the worst thing that can happen to you is you give up 15-2. Giving up 15-2 to the dealer is no big deal. It is a big deal if you start giving up runs 3 at a time, because many times a couple of runs in the course of a game will settle the game. Okay, 6. I argue this one all the time. It's not as bad as a 9, a single 9. We're talking about singles. There are some hands where a double 6 is a very good lead. We'll talk about them in a minute. But 6, if you have the 7 and the 8, 6 is really a poor lead. And it puts you in the bind right off the bat when I make 15 with a 9. The other thing it does, if you've got, say you've got 6, 7, 8, 9, let's say you're dealing, you've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 4 in a row, and the lead is a 10-point card. Well, I put the 8 on the 10-point card. Another 10-point card is usually played. Most people won't make the count 23 after seeing the 8 with a 5, so they'll make the count higher. So you make the count, then the count would be 18, right? 8, 18, 27 with a 9 usually gets you a go. And what 2 cards do you have left?
6 and 7.
6 and the 7. If the dealer's got 2 5s, you got an automatic trap every time. The dealer's got 1 5, probably he'll get away from it. But that's the other reason for not leading off the bottom of that hand, is to keep the 6, 7 intact, to trap the 5, because once the dealer has put a 10-point card on your opening lead, it's a very clear indication that he might be having a 5. If you got 2, you got it trapped every time. If you got 1, get away from you most of the time. So 6, 7, 8, 9, that's the reason we lead the 8. It allows us to put the count over 26, remember. If we're looking at a 10-point card, we want to get the count over 26. Because what happens if we don't get it over 26? Yeah. So we make it 27. And they say go. And this will happen an awful lot if you play this hand this way. Now this is a pretty common hand. I'm not talking about something that happens once in a decade. So you'll pick this hand up several times during one evening of play. So how you present the cards is very important. 7, 8, lead from a pair. If you got a pair of 7s, a pair of 8s, lead from the pair. Now if you don't, the 8, if you're leading from a pair, leading from the 8 is better. If you got say you got a pair of 8s and a pair of 7s. You know, why is it better to lead from the 8s?
Because you can't get quads on.
Yeah, what's 4 times 8? 32. Ah, hey Mary, did you get that?
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
I won't try it anymore.
Okay. You can't get burned for 12 points by leading an 8. Okay, and you can get 6 safe ones. Whereas you can get, by the way, 7s and 6s are very frequent, 4 of a kind. You probably noticed. Very frequent. Quite often, if you lead a 7 and the dealer puts a 7, it's because they're holding another 7. You see 7s and 6s very frequently as 4s of a. Those are the only middle cards where you see that happening because the count allows it.
Well, you lead 8 and then come back with 7, then you jump on it with
Well,
the
you
9
might show them another
or
8,
6.
even. You
Yeah.
might not want to show them a 7. You see, if you're showing them 2 8s, your hand could go up 9 10. But if you show me a 7 8, I got a pretty clear idea that it's headed that way. So very frequently, again, I
3, 4,
emphasize,
6,
if you can show me the same card
2,
twice,
5.
it gives me a lot less knowledge about the composition of your hand than if you show me 2 different cards. Okay? So now, you know, there was a guy elected to the Hall of Fame a few years ago by the name of Rit Alkus. He was national champion a time or two, maybe just once. But he's a terrific player from Connecticut. Wore an old sea captain's hat, beard. He could grow more of a beard than I can. This is 10 years growth for me. And I ain't cut none of it off. So I asked him after he won the national championship one year, I said, Rit, if you could share 1 or 2 little secrets about why it is that you're so successful in how you play your cards, especially in the pegging game, what would you tell me? And he said, I would tell you that anytime you're holding a 1 6 7 8 or a 2 6 7 8 and not dealing, lead the 1 or the 2. And what it does, it gives you the pegging advantage if the dealer's holding middle cards. Doesn't do anything for you if the dealer's not holding middle cards. But it offsets the cards on those middle cards once, and by leading the ace, very often you'll get 31 for 6 with the play of your last card. Now, playing defense, and we'll talk about that, on a 1 6 7 8, what would the defensive lead be? I don't want pegs. I want to try to get away if I can. The 7, right? If they pair it, I drop the 1 for 15. So that's the defensive way to play it. And keep in mind that all of this pegging game depends on whether we need points or we don't. See? And board position tells us that. Do you like where you are? If you like where you are, play the hand defensively. If you don't like where you are, go for the pegs. And very aggressively. If you don't like where you are on the board, that's one thing I learned about the Lynn Culver. If you don't like where you're on the board, go for the pegs. The earlier in the game, the better. If you don't win the cut for the opening deal, go for the pegs on the opening. Take everything you can, because the dealer's starting with a big advantage. No need to play defense on the first hand of the game. Now, there might be an exception to that. I'm not sure what it would be, but if you could think of something about this, bring it up.